This is a slide that we had from last week around being silenced by the fear of social exclusion and relating it really directly with challenging structural racism. And one of the things that's so uncomfortable and that really ties into the shame is that we're out of alignment with our values. And part of that is, life is pretty hard and we go along, and some of us are engaged in social action and wouldn't be feeling that same kind of uncomfortability that I am, for instance, of looking at what I know to be my values and how much effort and what am I doing? And I'm doing some things. It's not like I'm doing nothing. To really sit with what more can I do, and how could I be more engaged with this? So this shame, if we can sit with the feeling of it, if it's in our wheelhouse right now, if it's in our capacity to do that, that can really help us to clarify and to be inspired as to what we could do and to help get over that shame, to help reduce that shame. And one thing I wanted to talk about, that our past experience really increases our fear. And so if we've had a lot of experiences of being bullied, then we're going to have more fear when we go out into a situation like that. Or if we have a nervous system that's really on edge because of trauma, we're going to have more trouble with that. And so we need to be practical. So our past experiences and our own, wherever we are in healing our own trauma, and wherever we are with the pandemic, with COVID, and our personal feeling of being threatened by crowds and other people, we need to take that into consideration and give ourselves the compassion and practical understanding for that. So Maya Angelou is such an inspiration, talking about courage. And she's talking about developing a little bit of courage and saying, for me, I'm not going to listen to people in my family being racist. And so for years, they know that if they say something like that, or even now as we're talking about Black Lives Matter, that they're not going to get away with saying things that are racist. I'm going to want to talk about that with them and share what I feel. And as we develop that in little ways, it builds on itself. So that's something that we can recognize too, that we might be feeling like, okay, I do this, but I haven't been doing that. Then we could build our courage. And as we practice courage, it builds. That's the kind of message there. So I'm going to go through these fairly quickly because these are really just examples of what's going on right now. So the governor of California is talking about the Black community is not responsible for what's happening in this country, that we are, and we meaning the white people primarily in the institutions, because primarily as white people that are in power. And the LA mayor and some other police in the country now, in the United States anyway, and we're talking about that in Canada as well, are talking about reducing funding for police forces and increasing funding for community mental health and community action around poverty, and all kinds of organizations that are working from the ground up that would actually make a difference in the amount of policing that happens. And some police chiefs, like the one who told Trump to shut up, are being more vocal now. And it seems to me that once a few people start to say that, then other people are going to say that too. And then we come to all of these people now are suddenly speaking up about Black Lives Matter. And there's some peer pressure being put on people. Sidney Crosby is a hockey player from Nova Scotia. He was brought up a few miles from where I lived for several years here. He was called out by another player who said, we need players like Sidney Crosby and other high profile people to speak up, because it's not okay to be silent about this. So we're seeing all of these sports stars and and brands are coming out, and some people are saying, well, that's great, but are they going to follow it up with action? And Ben and Jerry's, I couldn't resist that ice cream, although apparently that was from a couple of years ago. So they've developed an action plan, and a lot of corporations and companies are looking at how can we actually operationalize this in our business? How can we change the culture of our business? How can we do this? And Ben and Jerry's is one. NChem and Defo with Loomis Transforms is a wonderful resource. They have a whole program of working with corporations around trauma, and racism is part of what they offer too. So here's the top military person. That photo op that Trump did in front of that church across from the White House has really come back to bite him in the butt. And a lot of people were so outraged by that they've started to speak up. So the next several slides, I just wanted to bring some ways forward that we can work with action on ourselves. So certainly educating ourselves is a big part of this. And I know a lot of people who have been going to the protests, and thousands of people that normally don't go out into the streets and protest are out there protesting. And that's such a powerful way to join with other people and have your voice heard. The protests are getting bigger and bigger because people are really starting to see what the problem is and how they can actually have an impact on it, and by using their voice together and using our voice together. So coming back to how we can work with this, and Rick Hanson's book Resilient: How to Grow an Unshakable Core of Calm, Strength, and Happiness is a book that has a lot of really good ways to work. Resma Menakem's book, My Grandmother's Hands, he's a trauma therapist, and his book is part workbook. There's a lot of exercises that people can do in that book. And to look at all the different ways that we can combine our political activism, our education around this, our heartfelt anguish and grief over what's happening, and our desire to change the kind of world that we live in, at the same time as we're working with our own personal trauma history and our own nervous system. And there are a lot of ways that we can make ourselves more resilient. One of the things I just really wanted to encourage everyone to look at is, what am I called on to do right now? And to move the shame aside, to sit with the shame, okay, but shame can be so paralyzing. So to acknowledge that we might be feeling like I should have started this earlier, or I should have been more active earlier, or what was the matter with me that I was living my own life and not working with this, or any of those kinds of things. And then how can we be present with ourselves, and what kind of things we could do? So one of the first things we could do is to acknowledge that there's a lot of emotion here. So let's stop for a moment and tune into your body, tune into your energy, thoughts in your mind, your heart. What do you feel right now? And there very likely is more than one. Love, angry, grief, afraid, ashamed, peaceful. What do you feel right now? And feel it in your body. Use your breath. Relax your body. Stay in this moment in your body. Notice how you feel. And notice if you're shaming yourself for any of that. How we feel is how we feel. And it's okay to be happy when we're out on a walk, or it's okay to enjoy the life that we have, even as we look into our own privilege. How do you feel right now? And as we go through these next couple of slides, they offer just some examples of things that we can do. So we can call friends and offer our support and understanding, particularly if you have friends that are people of color or that are in a marginalized group or that you feel are really suffering maybe more than some of the other people around you. You could offer your support and understanding to them. You can speak up, you can go to demonstrations, and we can do this in a practical way, using the power we have as it is safe for us to do so. So if right now our capacity is limited and the person who we're counting on for support is the person that we might normally challenge, we might not feel like we can do that, and that's okay. We don't have to be hard line with ourselves. So here's, there's some ways here. We can post on social media, we can donate, we can educate ourselves. We might be having some of those conversations with friends and family, trying to help them to understand as well. Or maybe we could bring it up and say, I've just been reading this book on white fragility, and these are some of the things I'm thinking about. And so, how can we be kind to ourselves and others who have a good heart and good intentions and keep moving forward with this so that we don't get just paralyzed with shame or with hopelessness that I'm only one person, I can't do much about it. So widening our window of tolerance is something we work with all the time. And learning about structural racism, Resma has a 5-day course, an e-course. You can find it on his website, resma.com. It's free and it takes you through learning about racialized trauma and structural racism. So that's a good resource. You can listen to podcasts. The one I mentioned with Resma is on Being with Krista Tippett. There's many, many right now. Brene Brown did a really great one with Ibram Kendi, who works around anti-racism. And personally, we can cultivate our determination and courage and kindness. We can be kind with ourselves, even as we're not letting ourselves go into complacency or into defiance of, well, I'm sick and tired of feeling like a bad person, so I'm not going to do anything. So we can recognize our own patterns and our own resistance and keep coming back in and engaging and being kind. So here's a couple of other to amplify anti-racist voices is something that we can all do as well. And here are a few resources and a children's book list as well. And I noticed that Oprah is doing something this weekend with on racism, and Sesame Street is doing a program, a town hall on racism for children. This is a new book that Ibram Kendi has coming out. It's a board book, an anti-racist baby book. And so that might be an option to get if you have any young children around too. So let's do a little bit of inquiry here. So if you're feeling like, I don't know what to say, I feel overwhelmed or I'm powerless, then how can you work with that? Get yourself comfortable. We'll do this for about 5 minutes so that we have a little bit of time to share as well. So as you're tuning in, notice what you feel. Not just emotion, but what do you feel around the question of what am I going to do? What can I do? And we've just been looking at and talking about many, many different ways that we can work with this. But what does it feel like in your heart right now, in your whole system? And take a moment to settle your body. Take a few breaths. Give yourself credit. Acknowledge that you're here, that you have good intentions, that you're really wanting to sink into this. What can I do for me right now? What is it that I can do? And stay connected with your body and breath so that you don't go into a shame storm or go into hopelessness. There are a lot of really practical steps that we can all take. What are you drawn to right now? What would you like to do? And feel that in your body. Feel and visualize what you can do today, this week, this year. What could you do? Listen to your heart. What does your heart know? So sometimes in our mind, we get involved in the cognitive brain and we go, well, I could do this. Well, no, I can't really do that. Well, what about this? So just drop some of that and go into your heart and listen to your heart. What are you moved to do? What are some action things that you could do? And it could be reading a book, listening to a podcast, talking to somebody, making a donation, staying engaged in this subject, which is hard for people. It's uncomfortable. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to stay engaged. And this is what I'm going to do next. And it's okay to say right now, what I'm going to do is take care of myself and my own nervous system. And I am going to set my resolve and intention that in a few months, when things are easier and when I'm more on my feet and more stable, then I will engage. And this might be what I'm going to do at that time. And right now, I can't do any more than that. And that is enough. So, whatever it is that we do and wherever we are with this, be kind. And can you include yourself in your circle of kindness and compassion? There's so much grief that we're feeling right now. And can you include yourself in your kindness? Feel that you might put your hand on your heart or bring your attention in to really acknowledge I'm a good person. I really feel this deeply in my heart and I'm willing to stay engaged, even as it is hard. I'm going to do this. And feel that in your body. Feel the kindness, the compassion, the resolve and the intention with whatever it is that you're moved to do. And then when you're ready, open your eyes.